just was amazing.
All right, we're at 6:05, so let's get started. Hopefully Adam will be here. Ordinarily, the chair will call the meeting to order, but in the absence of a chair, I'll call it to order at 6:05. And then the next step is the chair would read the roll. So we'll call the roll. Margaret is absent. Noah?
Here.
Adam is hopefully coming. Terry?
Here.
Emily?
Here.
Kelsey?
Here.
Anna?
Here.
And Kevin? Here. All right. So the next step that you would take would be moving into the minutes. You have no minutes because this is your first meeting. So ordinarily they will be on the table over there. You'll pick them up when you come in. They'll also be sent to you, that email that I send you announcing the meeting date. Go through them. You can give me any corrections at any time. So if you peruse them at that point.
So you all, the staff does the minutes.
Yep.
Mhm.
Lucky you don't have to. Yeah, but if you notice something in that email that there's a misspelling or something, we are happy to change it before we get to the point where we're printing it out. Or if you just come in and look through them, we make any changes. Again, we strive to make them as accurate as possible. They are a reflection of what happened, not every little thing that was said. So they're a very general overview and they are public documents. So then we go into citizens' comments. I don't see any citizens here and we don't have anybody online. So we're going to go to that. So the next thing would be the board orientation and overview. Ian McMeans is here. I thought since Anne had mentioned, maybe we go around the room really quickly and introduce ourselves before Ian gets started.
How long you've lived in Mount Lebanon, sort of anything you think would be pertinent. Just tell us something fun about yourself.
Hi, Kelsey.
My name's Kelsey Lee. I use she, her pronouns. I lived in Mount Lebanon 2 years now. I came to Pitt in 2003 and stayed, but I grew up on the other side of the state. So I'm a lifelong Pennsylvanian. I have 3 kids. I have a 6th grader at Mellon and my stepdaughter's in 3rd grade at Washington and my stepson's in kindergarten at Washington. And we live just on Hazel right behind the library. So I get to walk everywhere and we have a pandemic puppy who's 3 and her name is Maggie. So.
Kevin, I lived here like 3.5 years now. We moved back after my wife and I retired because she is from the South Hills, one of 11 kids, and 8 of them live here now.
Oh, wow.
So
That's fun.
it was hard to win that numerical contest, so we decided to move to Pittsburgh. But it's been great. Like it. Let's see, what about myself? I'm a big baseball fan. I was born in Chicago, so I'm mostly a Cubs fan, but when the Cubs, but I'm a Pirates fan when they're not playing the Cubs. And yeah, the 20-game package, so I get to go to a bunch of games a year, which is fun. The first time I went, I looked at my phone and said it takes 15 minutes to get there, and I'm like, that's impossible.
Isn't it?
I've been in Atlanta for 20 years. There's no way it could take 15 minutes to get anywhere at 5 o'clock. I mean, besides like 2 blocks away. But so I left like 45 minutes early, and of course it took 15 minutes to get there. It's never long. So I learned my lesson there. So that is one thing I like about Pittsburgh that I did not like about any place I've ever lived before. So
I'm Laura Lilly. I'm one of 2 staff liaisons. I am at your service. I have lived in Mount Lebanon for 30 years. My husband and I have a 23-year-old who will be graduating from Penn State momentarily. We have 2 dogs, 2 border collies. I am the public information officer as my day job for the municipality. So I'm the editor-in-chief of Mount Lebanon Magazine. And I'm also the internal and external communications person, for lack of a better word. So I have been at the municipality since 2007 and in my current role I'm going into my 6th year.
I'm Julia Aquino. I'm the other staff liaison. I'm the new-ish HR manager for the municipality. I've replaced the last HR manager who just retired about 4 months ago, Bonnie Cross. I'm also a resident. I've lived here about 7 years. I live on Mapleton and I play tennis with my neighbors at the tennis center twice a week.
Oh, wow. I'm Ann Swalker Wilson. I am the commissioner for Ward 3. I live on Connecting Drive, which is in Lebanon Hills. I was appointed to the commission 2 years ago, something like that, and then won the most recent election, so I have my own term. I have lived in Mount Lebanon for 44 years. I know I look 20, but 44 years. I have a 44-year-old, a 41-year-old, and a 28-year-old, 2 grandchildren, one's 7 at Markham, one's 5. And we have a rescue dog named Cece, who is like this big and completely adorable. There you have it.
I'm Terry Tim. My wife and I, we've lived in Mount Lebanon since 1994,
Long time too.
30 years,
Yeah.
right? My math is correct. We have 4 adult children, 4 grandkids. All of our children and grandchildren live in Mount Lebanon. They've been away, but they've all come back. So I see some version of my children and grandchildren every single day, better or worse. Yeah, and talking about dogs, I have a dog, a 1-year-old Bernese Mountain Dog, Marty. He's my emotional support dog. Sometimes he calms me down, sometimes he makes me a little nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's been good.
I'm Emily. I moved here with my husband in 2017 because I got a job as a professor at Pitt. And we moved to Mount Lebanon in 2022 because we were living in the slopes and we had a kid. So
Yeah.
we moved to Mount Lebanon. And we really, really love it. My husband is not from the United States and he was like, Pittsburgh isn't a city, like where have you made me move? But he really loves Mount Lebanon. So, we just are thrilled to be here.
So I'm Noah Evans, and I've lived in Mount Lebanon for 7 years. And I live on Woodhaven Drive with my wife and 2 kids. My daughter is in 8th grade at Mellon, and my son's a junior at the high school. Previously, I was on the CRB, so I'm one of the 4 people who carried it over here. And I also serve as the rector, the pastor, of St. Paul's Episcopal Church on Washington.
I'm Anna Roman and I am recently retired for about a year. And prior to that, I worked at UPMC in Pitt with a professor in the School of Medicine, and I also was responsible for graduate medical education. So
Oh, wow.
all those 2,300 residents and 23 hospitals. So I went from 80 miles an hour to 20. And so this is really an opportunity to give back. I live in Mainline. We've been in the South Hills all our lives, but moved from Upper St. Clair where our children went to school to Mount Lebanon about 12 years ago and got about 40 minutes of our life back from not having to go drive through past the mall, particularly around the holidays. That could be 90 minutes. And we thoroughly enjoyed living in Mount Lebanon and like the walkability and the convenience.
Karen?
My name's Karen. I'm the Public Information Office Administrator, so I'll just be taking the minutes. I don't live in Mount Lebanon, but I'm here so much that I feel like I do. And that's a good thing.
And I'm Ian McMeans. I'm your Assistant Municipal Manager. I think I emailed all of you to welcome you to the board, so thank you all for being willing to dedicate your time and talents to the board. Our advisory boards are a really important key piece of how our municipal government functions and making recommendations to the commission. The commission does weigh heavily the things that advisory boards recommend, and our government and the way we're able to serve our people and make Mount Lebanon a wonderful place for everyone to live and to be attractive to new residents is because of the great volunteers that we have that are willing to dedicate their time to these unpaid positions that you come on a random Wednesday night to talk about how to make the community better. So we certainly thank you all for your willingness to participate. About myself, I've worked for the municipality for 8 years now. Prior to that, I was the borough manager in Homestead for about 5 years and the assistant manager in Dormont for 1.5 years. I grew up north of Pittsburgh and was one of those people that was willing to move to the foreign country south of the rivers. But I've lived in the South Hills generally now since about 2010, in Mount Lebanon since 2012, so 12 years, I guess. My wife and I have 6 kids. You mentioned that you had a pandemic puppy named Maggie. We had a pandemic daughter named Maggie who was born as an accidental home birth in our bathtub on the 4th of July, 2020. So my random fact is that I delivered a footling breech baby while I was on hold with 911 because they were too busy taking fireworks calls to answer that. Yes.
We'll have to get our Maggies.
That's a good part of the story.
Isn't that
I'm not trying to one up anybody, but
Your wife is a rock star.
but really, my wife is the real hero of this story. I was just there along with it, so. Okay, so for those of you that have served on advisory boards in the past, there is some similarities and there are some differences now. I know I sent around the very lengthy policies and procedures document that had a lot of legalese and, wordiness in it, because anytime you share anything with an attorney, it winds up very wordy and very legalese. No offense, Julie. Julie's background was in law, so every now and then, I have to get my little punches in. So I hopefully with this presentation, I'm going to summarize some of the things that were in there, hopefully in a more digestible fashion. If you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to ask. So for those of you that have been on advisory boards in the past, there are some things that are different. We are trying to have a more structured approach to our new advisory boards. And really a lot of what we're doing is in the interest of transparency and being open to the public and making things more publicly accessible. So you've already met your commission liaison and staff liaisons to your board, so I don't need to go over that. This is kind of my, I'll say, warm handoff to the staff liaisons that when the commission had identified restructuring the advisory boards as one of their priority projects, I worked with the commission on a lot of the structure and the nitty-gritty background stuff. But from this point forward, it's really the staff liaisons that are going to be carrying the balls with all of the advisory boards moving forward. But I just wanted to make sure that everyone had an understanding of why we did what we did and where we're planning to go from here before things really kicked off in a formal fashion. So where we started when the commission said, hey, we should look at our advisory boards. Between the mandatory boards that we were required to have by state law, the true advisory boards that we had, and then the external boards that municipal staff and commissioners attended meetings of, sat on the board for other things. There was a lot of meetings that were happening. There was a lot of work that was happening. So we can't do anything about the mandatory boards that we have to have by state law. The external boards are all other organizations that we can't do anything about either. So the commission really honed in and focused on those 10 advisory boards and said, is there a way that we can consolidate this to make things flow more efficiently at the board level, at the commission level? And they settled on the number of 5 because there's 5 commissioners. So the idea was each commissioner could have a board that they would be the liaison to and help staff. So the commission really started from the ground up and said, what are the 5 areas where we want input and recommendations from the expertise that we have in our population? Because Mount Lebanon has 34,000 people. We have people who are experts in a variety of fields. And the commission really values, like I said at the beginning, the expertise of our residents and wants to be able to take advantage of that because not every community has the ability to do that. So as the commission had conversations, they identified 5 key areas where they said, these are the areas where we want recommendations and input from our volunteer boards, and those became the 5 new advisory boards. So the Civic Engagement Board is one of those 5 areas. When we benchmarked against our neighboring and similar sized communities in Allegheny County, we also found that our 10 true advisory boards were many more than everybody else had. So settling on that number of 5 brought us a lot more in line with our, I'll say, comparable communities of similar size and scale. And the idea too is that in the past, there was some kind of duplicative or maybe even contradictory work that was happening between boards. So we had a Parks Advisory Board and a Sports Advisory Board. And there may have been, conversations about, well, what should we do with Bird Park? And the Sports Board's talking about what to do with the field there. The Parks Board's talking about the natural space there. But they're having 2 parallel conversations about the same space. And then they both make recommendations independent of each other. And the commission's trying to weigh, well, which one means more. But having a combined Parks and Recreation Board now, they can have all those conversations at the board level and come up with one consistent, cohesive recommendation to give the commission. So we're hoping to eliminate some of that duplicative work and just make it a more open public process too. So the purpose of advisory boards is to be advisory to the commission and coordinate the activities with goals and priorities that the commission has established and objectives laid out in adopted plans such as the comprehensive plan, Parks Master Plan, any other plans that may get adopted. I'll talk a lot about plans because in addition to being the assistant manager, I'm also the municipal planner. So plans mean a lot to me, and I like to say, I like to tout our accomplishments of how well we do at achieving the goals that our plans set out. Our prior comprehensive plan, we achieved 95% of the goals that were in that plan from 2013 to 2023. So we have a brand new comp plan that was just adopted this year, which is extremely exciting. But I really like to, Mount Lebanon prides itself on being able to accomplish things that we put into plans. They're not just documents that collect dust on the shelf.
And our
Yes, ma'am.
plans grow from a lot of civic engagement with our population. We'd like to grow that as much as possible so that we get representation from all the different groups. It's very important.
So the inputs used by the commission, who the 5 elected commissioners are the decision makers at the end of the day. They get inputs from the professional staff of the municipality, our professional consultants, such as our solicitor, engineers, any other consultants that we hire to work on projects, and advisory boards. So that's kind of how it all flows together as far as input to the commission. And one of the things that we want to achieve is this top-down model of policy direction. So the commission overall sets policy, establishes goals, and approves the budget. And the budget really dictates what we do in a given year because it's what we have money to do. The advisory boards serve in the role of recommending the prioritization of projects or programs to achieve the established goals like we talked about in certain plans. And then the commission directs staff. At the end of the day, municipal staff is the one that implements things. So the commission directs the municipal manager to have the rest of staff implement the policies and programs that have been funded in the budget. So in order to get anything implemented, it has to be funded in the budget. But we'll talk more about kind of how this process works about recommending prioritization and things like that. So I will say that this is really what we're trying to achieve, where the commission is setting the direction of the municipality and the advisory boards are recommending how to accomplish those goals. And then the commission's directing staff through funding in the budget on achieving those goals. Okay. So commission responsibilities, Commissioner Swager Wilson already knows this, but relaying the priorities of the commission to the board and ensuring that the board is focused on commission supported plans and initiatives. So one of the reasons for this is that we've had in the past advisory boards that had ideas of their own and did a whole lot of work. We even had one that did like a 25-page report on a certain topic and took it to the commission. They were all excited about it, and the commission said, thanks, but we're not interested in doing this at the time. And then half that board resigned because they got really frustrated that they'd done all this work and there was no support behind it. So really, the commission liaison is also here to make sure that the board is focusing their time and their efforts, because everyone's time is valuable, on things that the commission is going to support and will have the support of the commission, as well as at every commission discussion session, which happens before their voting meetings. There's a standing agenda item for each commissioner to report on what's happening with their boards. So Commissioner Swager Wilson can update the rest of the group on anything that's happening with this board. As far as the staff liaisons, Laura and Julie already mentioned this too, that drafting agendas, keeping meeting minutes, which Karen's also helping with, keeping attendance records, as well as the institutional knowledge of the board with document storage, retention and record keeping, as well as onboarding and orientation of new members. So I'm doing it this time because we're starting all these boards new, but after this, it's going to be on the staff liaisons to bring new people onto the board. But since this meeting is being recorded, this will be also a resource potentially for other new board members to go back and watch this as well, and hopefully not fall asleep. Okay, there are some limitations that are on advisory boards. So advisory boards and subcommittees do not have the ability to perform any of the following functions. Firstly, directing activities of municipal employees. The only person who can direct activities of municipal employees is the municipal manager. So if a board would like a municipal employee to do something, you have to send an email to the municipal manager. in theory, that should come from like the board chair and say the board's requesting that this happen, goes to the municipal manager, and then the municipal manager can decide how he wants to direct the employees whether or not to move that forward. Expending municipal funds, the commission and municipal manager are the only ones that have the authority to expend municipal funds. So similarly, entering into contracts, while the board is part of the overall municipal governing structure, you don't have the ability to enter into a contract on behalf of the municipality. That's done by the commission and the manager. So if there's someone that you want to work on something, you can bring that proposal to the commission and the manager, but you as a board member or even you as a board as a whole can't actually approve the contract. Performing functions conferred on any other agency of the Commonwealth and host or sponsor events. So talking a little bit more about the events, you can go back and watch the commission discussion session where we talked about the policies and procedures document, because there was also some discussion about the events piece. But in a brief summary, the commission's direction through that approved board policies and procedures document, or I'll call it board bylaws, that makes it easier. It's much more efficient language. Through the board bylaws is that boards may participate in municipal events or programs with the approval of the municipal manager. So what does this mean? Boards can assist with planning, staffing, and event execution, as well as creation and distribution of educational materials coordinated with the Public Information Office. So for example, one of the things that has happened in the past with the Community Relations Board, and will probably fall with this board as well, is our annual Residence Academy program that we do. So it's a municipal program that the municipality puts on, but the board may assist with planning the Residence Academy, staffing if someone comes and sits at the door and welcomes people in, hands out name tags, event execution, things like setup, takedown, things like that. So board members can assist with programs like that, like the Residence Academy. But the real idea here is that since advisory boards are part of the overall structure of the municipality and the municipal government, any events are municipal events and have to be planned through the municipality, that a board can't just host their own event. But there are municipal events that boards can take part in with the approval of the municipal manager. So.
Good question. Question on that.
Yeah.
I assume when you're saying this, that you mean participate as a board member, like our personal participation is never restricted.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, yeah, you can go to any event you want as a personal resident, but as a board, let's say there was a community event happening about, I'll pick something. Let's say there was an outside organization that came in to do a composting event, right? But they might be a for-profit organization. And if the resiliency board, not your board, but the resiliency board wanted to go have a table at that event, that they would be kind of participating in that event that's not a municipal event, and it's an event for a for-profit organization, which as a municipality, we can't directly promote for-profit organizations. So,
can I assume that
Yes.
the reason that we've gotten down to this granular level is that you've had a problem with this in the past?
there have been instances where things like this have come close to happening or similar, yes. One of our previous boards was listed as a sponsor of an event that was happening at the library, but it was a for-profit group coming in to talk about services that they provided actually on recycling. So that example kind of hit close to home. But when the commission discussed the bylaws, they wanted to be very clear with the new advisory boards that if you're having like a table to hand out information about what a board might be working on, or having a table to collect feedback from people, that needs to be in conjunction with a municipal event. It shouldn't be at another event. Okay. But that doesn't stop anyone from attending events as a citizen, but as a collective group. The example that was given last night was Commissioner Flynn was the liaison. He's the liaison for the mobility board. And he said, I can attend any event as Andrew Flynn resident, but I don't speak for the body of the commission as a whole through anything I say. It's the group that acts collectively. He's like, he said, if I attend an event, it's me as a resident. I'm not there, saying, the commission doesn't support this, anything like that. So yes. All right. So the overall structure of the board, There's 9 volunteer residents that are appointed by the commission as the voting members of the board. So
You will have one appointed, additional appointed, it was somebody that was not able to accept an appointment, so there are only 8 members at the present, but you will have a 9th shortly.
yes. And then the board does elect their own chair and vice chair. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. The liaisons, their commission liaison, staff liaison, and the commission approved a resolution 2 weeks ago at their meeting that there are also liaison spots for Mount Lebanon School District to have 2 liaisons to each advisory board. That's up to the school district who they want to appoint to those spots, so they're aware that they can do that. That could be school board members, it could be administration, it could be staff, it could be faculty, it could be even people just kind of secondarily associated with the school district, like PTA members or something like that. So that's open-ended, but that's for the school district to appoint, and they're welcome to come to the meetings, but the liaisons don't vote. So just the appointed members are the ones that vote on things. In the bylaws, we also carved out a space for associate members. The commission has not designated any community organizations yet to be associate members to any boards, but that space is there if they want to. They could designate, for example, I'll pick one. Let's say the commission said, it would be good to have Mount Lebanon Nature Conservancy attend the Parks and Rec Board meetings. So we're going to designate them as a community organization to have a liaison. So kind of like with the school district, we would let them know you have a associate member position, have someone attend the meetings, you can participate in discussions, but you can't vote. So the appointed members are the only ones who can vote. Anyone else of these 3 can still participate in any discussions that happen. So what are the board member responsibilities? First and foremost is residency. So if you move out of the municipality, you do have to resign your seat from the board, but relocating within the municipality is not cause for removal. Meeting attendance of either in-person or virtual in order to count towards the quorum. So we have to have 5 board members present in order to be able to conduct a meeting. Virtual attendance, the strong preference is with your camera on so that you can actively participate in the meeting. And through the Zoom format, we all know who's here. Driving in your car with your phone on, just kind of listening, isn't really actively participating in the meeting. So obviously, if you have some kind of technical issues where you can't get your camera to work, we understand. But the strong preference is if you're attending virtually, your camera should be on. And I mentioned the chair, vice chair positions before, that whoever's running the meeting, whether it's chair, vice chair, should be in person. So like if the chair has to attend virtually, it's just easier to run the meeting when you're here. So then the vice chair would run the meeting. The chair could still participate virtually, but the vice chair would run a meeting in person. And then collaborating with liaisons. So commission and staff liaisons should have access to all board documents through the board SharePoint site. I think Laura either already has or will be adding you soon to the board shared drive. So just any working documents, I'll hit on this a few more times, just make sure those are all kind of stored in the shared drive for the board. And there's reasons for that and that I'll talk about. And so also commission and staff liaisons should be copied on all board communications so that they know what's going on, because the last thing we want is for our elected official to get asked a question about what's the civic engagement board doing about this, and her to say, I have no idea what they're doing. So we don't like surprises, don't like to be caught off guard. So just make sure that you copy your commission and staff liaisons on any correspondence related to board business so that they're in the loop, because we don't want them to be out of the loop, especially since we have our public information officer here, whose office handles a lot of questions from residents on a variety of things. One other note is that if a board member is absent for either 4 consecutive meetings or 6 times in a 12-month period, they could be placed on notice for potential removal from the board. So there is a sort of attendance expectation within a given time frame. So the core responsibilities of the advisory boards are prioritizing and recommending goals of the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan, I'll talk more about it later, but is the overall kind of guiding document of where we want to go over the next decade. Making recommendations based on other adopted plans and policies, capital project prioritizations, which may not be as big of a thing for this board as some of the other boards, but I think it's still worth having on your radar, as well as a work plan and an annual report. So I mentioned the elected officer position. So typically in April or May of each year, the board should do a reorganization where you all select one of your members to serve as the chair and then another one to serve as vice chair. The chair presides over and facilitates the meeting. So Laura mentioned at the beginning, she's kind of running the meeting tonight until the board selects a chair. You can either select a chair tonight after I'm done talking, or wait until next month, however you decide to do it. And the chair is also responsible for coordinating with staff liaisons on agendas, tracking meeting attendance, placing members on notice for non-attendance, and then acting as an ex officio member for any subcommittees and ensuring the annual reports and project list gets submitted to the planning office. Because every year, I, as the municipal planner, have to give an update on the progress towards our comp plan goals to the commission. So having reports from each board going into that just makes it a lot easier to pull that whole report together. And the vice chair performs the duties of the chair when the chairperson's not in attendance. So kind of like as the assistant manager, I perform the duties of the manager when he is unavailable. So like I said, you can either choose to do that tonight or next month, but you should pick a chair relatively soon, just to have someone kind of used to the structure and organization of how the meeting should flow, and then helping to put agendas together and things like that. So generally speaking, one of the other things that we are trying to achieve with this whole board reorganization is a standardization of a lot of things. And as I mentioned, to make this more publicly accessible in the interest of being open and transparent, all of our board meetings for all of our new advisory boards are going to have the same agenda structure so that people can go on the website, get used to how the meetings are going to flow, be used to how the agendas are going to look. We also have an established timeline for before each board meeting. So, 8 days prior, the agenda gets finalized, 7 days prior to the board meeting. That's calendar days, not business days. So a week in advance of the board meeting is when you'll be expected to RSVP to your staff liaison if you're available. If we don't have a quorum at that time, we will cancel the meeting. And one of the things we run into with our prior boards was a day or two before a meeting was supposed to happen, we didn't know if we had a quorum for the meeting, and we were running around like, do we cancel the meeting? Do we not cancel the meeting? So all of our board members are adults, and we're going to treat you like adults and expect you to RSVP a week in advance. And if you don't, then if we don't have a quorum, then we'll cancel the meeting. And that way also 6 days prior, we can get the agenda posted on the website because IT needs time to do that. And then in the interest of transparency, that's also plenty of time for residents to go on, see what's on the agenda, see what the board's going to be talking about, see if they want to attend a meeting either virtually or in person to listen in on any of the discussions that are happening. The Friday before a meeting or sooner, if other information is available, there will be information about the board meeting either sent out by email or uploaded to the SharePoint site by your staff liaisons, and then the board meeting happens. This was a terrible PowerPointing by me. I really messed that one up. Oops. I guess messing up one slide out of 30 isn't too bad. Hopefully, we'll see. I'm only halfway through. We'll see if the rest of it are okay. But the real goal here is to make sure that we get the agenda and information out to the public in a reasonable time for the public to see it. So a week in advance is kind of the expectation that we're setting for all of our new advisory boards. Yes.
Before you go further, I want to just talk about the Sunshine Act for a moment, because I don't know that everybody's familiar with that.
I do have a slide on that at the end.
Okay, then I'll just stop.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You can talk about it if you want, though.
No, I
Okay.
don't mind. I just wanted to make sure everybody, I mean, this stuff I know, but a lot of people don't know. What
Well, if I miss anything,
That's right. I'll check you on it.
yes. All right. So I also mentioned about the annual reports that happen. The overall calendar of the year is really based around the commission approving the budget and the capital plan in December, and everything kind of flows backwards from there. So our municipal budget's a calendar year, January through December budget. The commission holds their budget hearings in November. The manager has to submit by charter his recommended budget to the commission on November 1st. The commission by charter has to receive the recommended capital program on August 1st of each year. So backing up from that is when staff starts to prepare the budget and the capital program. And I'll talk a little bit more about those in subsequent slides. But also like the comp plan annual report happens in July in advance of the commission receiving the capital plan for the subsequent year. So that's really where we're trying to set things up. And as time goes on, your board may decide that you want to have other kind of annual activities that happen in a certain given month. Maybe you say, oh, every October, we're going to review something. I don't know, an example's escaping me, but you could pick something to say, we want to review this every October or something like that. So you can kind of build an annual schedule for your board too, but just as a starting point, as the whole municipality, our annual schedule is really based around when the commission approves the budget and the capital plan.
It's also unlikely that you will have a capital item. That's more of like a parking facilities or parks board. I mean, unless you think community engagement would be best served by a food truck. I can't imagine any capital.
Never know.
Just never know.
We could get that airplane that trails along a banner. Or just get you that bullhorn in a Jeep that
That's
you've been
what
asking
the
for.
Jeep Wrangler and Bullhorn. That's what you say they didn't know.
So since all the board structures changed, is there some kind of equivalent budget we could see from last year, so we know what was on it and how much was spent as it rolled up into what our responsibilities will be in this board?
So the budget from our prior years are all online, so you can look and see. It's, the budget itself is broken down by municipal department, so it's not necessarily by board or by priorities. The one thing I will say, in the capital plan, which I know isn't exactly a lot of what this board works on, but in the capital improvement plan, we have under each project listed what goals of the comp plan that project helps achieve. So ideally, I would like to, with the new board structure, have a little bit more of that kind of documentation with both regular budget items and capital project items. So these project prioritization lists, that was a wonderful segue question too. Really the line to kind of remember between capital and operating is $100,000. So if it's a project over 100K, it goes in the capital program. If it's under 100,000, it goes in the operating budget. And this is a snapshot from our last CIP that we had 10 advisory boards, but only 3 of them were submitting priority lists. So now the goal is to have all 5 advisory boards submit priority lists so the commission can see across the board what everyone is recommending. And some of these things are in the operating budget, some of them were in the capital budget. But each one of these projects that are in the capital budget has a description that lists out the goals of, what goals of certain plans it helps achieve, and lists out, a description and justification for it, as well as project costs and things like that. So having an annual prioritization list of anything that you want funded, whether it's under 100,000 it goes in the operating budget, or over 100,000 it goes in the capital budget, is really useful for staff as we put the capital plan and the budget together, and is useful for the commission as well whenever they start to weigh things for funding, deciding, okay, well, this project was rated number 2 by the Parks Board versus this one rated number 6 by the Sports Board. Which one are we, going to consider funding?
And to exactly answer your question, the only thing in the budget this year for the Community Relations Board, which had a similar mission, was $500 for the Residence Academy. So that was used to buy some snacks and waters and things like that. So this board has operated in the past on donations from the community. People have gone out and used their connections to get donations. So, but there are other things in the comp plan that would not be able to be done that way, that would need budget items next to them.
Like a survey,
Like,
something like that. If you want to do a professional survey, those are expensive. So that would be one that would be something you need to think about ahead of time.
So just as a example here, I'm gonna go off script for a minute. Oops. There we go. So this is a snapshot page out of our last capital plan where we had, what the project was, what the department was, how much it costs, and then kind of the description and justification, as well as what goal in the comp plan it helped achieve. And on other projects, let me see if I can find another one here. Some of them also had references to like the Parks Master Plan. Find it real quick. We use this little leaf symbol if it was part of something that helped achieve the climate action plan. There we go. So this is the Parks Master Plan. So if there was something referenced in the Parks Master Plan, it got this little tree symbol. And this is a way for us through the planning office, because the planning office is the one who puts together the capital plan. So this is a way for us to also help track what goals of what plans we are achieving through certain projects, and it helps the commission and the general public know that we are looking at these plans and using them to help inform what we do. Excuse me. Sorry, things are growing and allergies happen. All right, also in the bylaws, the commission created the ability to have subcommittees of a board, and ad hoc committees are established under the Mount Lebanon Administrative Code through our charter. Ad hoc committees are established by the commission. They have a 1-year time frame and may contain non-residents, and they study a specific matter. So the last time we used ad hoc committees was when we did the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Initiative. The commission set up 4 separate ad hoc committees. The way it's written in the charter, the ad hoc committees can either be a standalone body and just do research and make a report to the commission, or they can fall under the oversight of a certain board. Those DEI committees fell under the oversight of the Community Relations Board. So the way it was supposed to work when the commission set it up was the ad hoc committees would make a recommendation to the CRB, and then the CRB would make a recommendation up to the commission. So in the future, if there's any ad hoc committees set up that get nested under this board, that's how it should work, is that those ad hoc committees would give reports to your board, and then your board would vote on whether or not to ratify those or pass those on to the commission or make any amendments based on your expertise as well. Subcommittees may be created either by the commission or by an advisory board. So if there's a certain topic area that you all, or a portion of you, want to look into and study, if you see something in one of the comp plan recommendations that really jumps out at you and say, oh, I'd like to talk about this more and pursue this. We really want the board meetings to be business meetings. So a lot of the discussion that happens can happen at like a subcommittee level. So subcommittees, you can't have a quorum of the board members on a subcommittee. So that's 5 members. So you need 4 or fewer members on a subcommittee, but then you can really hash out some things and deliberate and discuss. And subcommittee meetings do not have to be open public meetings because you don't have a quorum of the board. So they don't have to be advertised. You can kind of meet in between board meetings, discuss things. I will note that because any subcommittee working documents are part of the work of the board and therefore are part of the municipal governing structure, that any documents created by the subcommittee should be stored on the shared drive so that everybody has access to them. And we'll talk more about the right to know law later. But still, nevertheless, subcommittee meetings don't fall under the Sunshine Act because there's not a quorum of board members. I will also note that for subcommittees, the municipal manager has approved staff liaisons to come to regular board meetings, but if you want a staff liaison to come to a subcommittee meeting, you have to request their attendance through the municipal manager. So if you want Laura or Julie or someone else from staff to come to a subcommittee meeting, you need to request the manager, send him an email, really just come from whoever the subcommittee chair is, similar to a board chair, ask that having a staff member there. And the commission or the advisory board can create subcommittees. So the commission established subcommittees on a couple of the other boards. They didn't establish any on this board. So as time goes on, if you decide there's something you really want to look into and 2, 3, 4 of you want to make a subcommittee, to go for it, there's a spot carved out on the regular agenda for subcommittee reports. You can do that. Okay, Robert's rules can be very complicated and very lengthy. As far as at the board level, it's relatively simple. Most of what you need to know is based on motions. So anyone except the chair can make a motion to approve something. In order to have discussion on it, the motion needs a second. So if it doesn't get a second, it doesn't move on to discussion. Anyone except the person who made the motion can make the second. So the board chair is allowed to second a motion. And then after it gets a second, discussion happens. If there's any, during discussion, if there's any amendments to the motion, that's a separate carve out. So similar to the regular structure, anyone except the board chair can move to amend the motion, needs a second. There's discussion on the amendment. And if the amendment passes, then it goes back to discussion and you discuss the amended motion. If the amendment fails, it also goes back to discussion, just as the original motion, not the amended motion. And at some point, then when the board chair feels that discussion has run its course, or, in the interest of time, if there's nothing really new to say or discuss, it moves on to a vote. The chair calls the vote. The vote can be done verbally, kind of all in favor, say aye, any opposed, nay, any abstentions. If it's close or there's any uncertainty, you can also have a roll call vote. So the board chair could call each member individually and say, okay, how do you vote? How do you vote? How do you vote? How do you vote? Just so our meeting minutes are the official record of the meeting, and we want to make sure they're correct. So if there's a vote that's close, you can also do a roll call vote.
And your staff liaisons will take care of this, but you're not gonna be.
Remember all this is.
We will lead you through it.
Yes. Yeah, this is really the primary point of Robert's rules for a board level. For a larger body like, the Senate, House of Representatives, there's a lot.
We
more.
know filibusters in the.
Right.
Please.
This is really the.
Hey, we're gonna be hungry. Dinner time.
So we talked about the board SharePoint site. So this is the official municipal document storage and repository for all of our boards. Staff liaisons are responsible for maintaining the SharePoint site. Board members will have access to it, and all working documents should be stored there. Part of that's because of the Pennsylvania Right to Know law. Actually, all of that's because of the Pennsylvania Right to Know law. That because this is part of the overall structure of the municipality, the Right to Know law says that any documents that are part and parcel to a governing body's work can be requested through a right to know request through the open records law. And if you have working documents on your personal computer, your personal Google Drive, whatever, could be then opened up to a right to know search. So that's why we have a site to do this. Just use our site. Don't need to store stuff on your own computers. Don't need to store stuff on your personal Google Drives. Use ours, because this is where everything lives there. Then you don't have to worry about your personal computers being opened up to a right to know search. The beauty of SharePoint, OneDrive, Microsoft 365, whatever you want to call it, it's all basically the same thing, is with the shared document functions, you can have multiple people editing the same document. So if there are working documents, if you're working on a report or something, multiple people can get into it and still have access to it through the SharePoint site. So it's better to just store everything there. Before a meeting, agendas and other pre-meeting information will be uploaded there from your staff liaisons, and board members will be responsible for reviewing the meeting information prior to a meeting happening. And after a meeting, the meeting minutes get uploaded to Laserfish, which is our internal storage, as well as to the municipal website by our IT department. The one thing I'll note on meeting minutes is that, as Laura mentioned at the beginning, the board will have a motion to approve the minutes from the prior meeting at the beginning of each meeting. So we don't post minutes to the website until the board approves them, just because we don't want to post something and have someone's name spelled wrong or have something else incorrect in there. So the motion to approve minutes is what gets something posted. So there is a 1 month lag time on minutes getting posted to the website, but because all of our meetings are recorded and broadcast on YouTube and available, people can go online and watch a meeting within a day or two after a meeting happens. They just won't have that official record of the meeting. And meeting minutes really aren't a verbatim copy of what was said at a meeting. It's mostly a summary of what was said, but sometimes when people are talking in a meeting, you say things that you may phrase something in a way you didn't mean to say it that way, or the person transcribing the minutes may not have accurately captured the intent of what you were saying, and the minutes may say, so and so talked about this, and you may be like, that's not exactly what I meant. I'd like to edit the minutes to say that. So when you approve the minutes at a board meeting, that's really the opportunity to make any of those edits, and really that's kind of just getting back to the motion thing. It would be motion to approve the minutes with an amendment of correcting my spelling of my name or something like that. So that then that's the official record of what happened.
It's stay on the website for 3 years as well. So, so the community relations board minutes for the last 3 years are on. So if some of these projects carry back.
All right, so I talked about the comprehensive plan. One of the really unique things that the commission has done through the comp plan process is that we structured our new advisory boards in alignment with the 5 key topic areas of the comprehensive plan. We're the only community in Pennsylvania that I know of that has done something like that. So this is a really unique and innovative way to approach implementation of a comprehensive plan between me and you and whoever's listening online. I actually sent in a proposal to the Pennsylvania Planning Association for their annual conference to present on this because it's a really unique way of attacking this. So we'll see if I get accepted, but I'm kind of excited to maybe get to spread the word about what we've done here in Mount Lebanon, because the commission was completely on board with it and our consultants were on board, and it was a really great way to structure things now to help move things forward. So within the comprehensive plan, each comp plan section has a list of goals and objectives. I believe I sent out the civic engagement section with my welcome to the board email, but each of the new advisory boards also has several other plans or other things that get approved by the commission, whether they be the other plans that we've done or plan to do are in yellow. Boards can create their own work plans as well as the capital improvement priorities and recommendations, all kind of feed into the key core documents and goals for a board. So the comp plan is our 10-year plan of goals and objectives. There's a lot of very aggressive long-term thinking in there, and it's not all going to happen in year one. And we fully realize that. It is a 10-year long-term plan. There's even some things in there that say, start a 30-year effort on this, start a 50-year effort on this. So some of it is thinking really long-term about the community. And the key role of our advisory boards is to prioritize and recommend projects for implementation based on what's in the comp plan and other approved plans. So whether that be a plan like the Parks Master Plan or Climate Action Plan or any other plans done by the commission. Every couple of years, the commission has a goal setting retreat where they say, these are our top priority projects that we want to work on. So the commission formally adopts all of these plans, sets all these goals, and that is the core of what we want our advisory boards to focus on achieving, because these are the things that the commission said, this is what we want to do, whether it's over the next 10 years, the next 2 years, however they've articulated it. But we want to make sure that everyone is all moving in the same direction to achieve the goals that the commission has set. And then also tracking and reporting on the progress towards meeting those goals. As I mentioned, I put together a report every year on what we've done to achieve the goals of the comp plan. And having that input from the advisory boards is very helpful, or will be very helpful. I didn't have it in the past, so it will be very helpful to me in preparing those reports in the future. So I mentioned all these plans that we have, but let's say you have your own idea. So the first question you should ask is, does it in some way, it might not exactly be what's recommended in an existing plan, but does it in some way further a goal or recommendation that's in one of those existing plans? And it might, it may be, a tertiary connection, but if you can tie it in some way to a goal in an existing plan, then that makes it a lot easier to get people on board and say, we're doing this initiative because it helps further this goal in some way. If you look through everything and say, we can't find any goal that aligns with this idea that we have, the next question to ask is it feasible? So discuss with your staff liaisons, your commission liaison, if it's something that is feasible to be done at the local government level with the existing staff we have. And there may be budget requests for things, but really figuring out if it's something feasible to be done by a local government is a key question. If the answer is yes, then the board, during the course of business, would make a motion to request the commission to provide direction. And then the commission would discuss it at a future discussion session and say, so your commission liaison would take it to the body as a whole, and the commission would weigh this idea against all the other commission priorities and everything else going on and say, is this something that we want the board to focus their time and attention on? If the commission says yes, your liaison will report back to you and say, we have the green light to move forward. If the commission says no, then we'll move on to other things. But the idea here is that we want the boards focused on the established goals first. And we also want to make sure that A, the commission knows what the boards are working on, and B, that the boards aren't doing a lot of work and spinning their tires on something that's not going to get approved by the commission at the end of the day. We want to make sure that there's alignment across the board. terrible pun, sorry. We want to make sure that there's alignment between the commission and the advisory board so that the boards aren't doing a lot of that work. Like I mentioned earlier, there was one board that had put together a lengthy report on a certain topic and then the commission said, thanks, but we're not interested. We don't want that to happen. So we don't want board members to get frustrated. You're volunteers, you're giving us your time. We want you to be working on things that you're interested in, but also making sure that it furthers what the commission wants to do. All right, so in the comp plan, this is a very high-level summary of some of the recommendations in the civic engagement chapter, providing communications that reach all residents of the community, regardless of age and technological abilities. We also have a communications plan that we've been working on to also further that goal. So Laura can talk more about what all we've done as far as that goes. We have implemented a lot of things there, but we're always looking for new ways to reach new and different communities as well within Mount Lebanon, maintaining and creating opportunities for engagement, implementing a slogan and branding framework. So we've started doing that. We had some money in the municipal budget this year to do that as well. But that's a continual ongoing effort. Fostering opportunities for the municipality and community groups to work collaboratively together, conducting quality of life satisfaction surveys every 2 years. I think Commissioner Swager Wilson mentioned that before, that those are very expensive and would be a budget line item request, but it is a recommendation of the comp plan. So if the board is putting together their list of requests of things they would want to, their priorities, if this is one of them in the short term, it would help achieve a goal in the comp plan. So there's some backing to that too. Reviewing policies, ordinances, and programs that may hinder community spirit and inclusion, tracking and adapting to social expectations for public safety operations, modernizing municipal facilities. We've started on a plan to do a little bit of that this year in the municipal building, but also we have some long-term ideas on some other ways to adapt our municipal building. This building was originally built in the 1920s, but last renovated in the early 2000s and was really set up for that, kind of late 90s, early 2000s model of service delivery. And that's not how people are interacting with their local government as much anymore. The front desk, it's set up in a customer service model that someone can walk in and get information, but people aren't really walking in for information anymore. It's mostly people that are walking in or coming in to either pay taxes or pay a parking ticket or drop off building permit stuff. So, thinking of ways that we can potentially rearrange and realign the way our building is laid out and where our offices are and things like that to better serve the community. Because right now, generally speaking, the people that like to come in and pay their taxes in person tend to be elderly residents. And some elderly residents tend to prefer to use an elevator versus stairs, or some have maybe some accessibility issues, but our tax office is in the basement. So if you're coming in to pay your taxes, you have to come into the building, take the elevator down a floor, and go into the tax office, take the elevator back up, and then leave. But if the elevator is broken or something, then that's not the most efficient place for the tax office to be. So I have a lot of ideas on this topic, as you can tell. But just it's a long-term approach and some long-term thinking. But having a municipal facility set up to the way that people want to interact with their government and what we're seeing as our high traffic situations or service requests. Another example, like our most in and out department is code enforcement, because they're the ones that go out and look at complaints about properties. They're on the second floor. Our cars are all the way in the back. Does that make sense for code enforcement to have to go downstairs to the parking lot and leave every time they have to go out to look at a property or do an inspection or things like that? Would it make more sense to have them in a space that's more accessible to vehicles where they have to go out? So things like that to think about. It's not just this building too. We're currently doing a study on our recreation center / ice rink, where we're looking at ways to improve that facility, make it more ADA accessible, make the offices, which are, our recreation department, their offices are in a hallway and the back of them backs out over the ice rink. So the people that have a window can only look down over the ice rink. There's no natural light in their offices. And as our lovely commissioner has said, it's cruel and unusual punishment to make someone work in an office with no natural light. So
There's actually been studies done that show that daylighting improves performance. for school children, for adults, for everyone. And just think about that. If you had to sit someplace and you never could look out the window, I mean, hideous. So, yeah.
And employees who are happier are gonna have a better demeanor with the public. And at the end of the day, we're here to, be public servants and deal with the public. So, we want our employees to be happy as well.
Well, we want to attract people to work here as well.
That's it,
Yes, good people. Right.
Yes. So that goes along with continually improving the employee environment because we want to make sure that we are an attractive place to work so that we can attract the best talent that's out there so that we can provide our residents with the best possible services, maintaining visitor information materials on the website, maintaining open communications with real estate agents. We found in the past that real estate agents have a really good finger on the pulse of what people are looking for and why people choose to live in Mount Lebanon and, what we can do to market our community for potential future residents as well. As part of the comp plan study that we did, one of the questions on one of the surveys dealt with where did you live before Mount Lebanon? And the highest response rate was people lived in another community in Allegheny County. And then I think the second highest was that they lived in another community in another state.
Atlanta.
Yeah, right.
Yes. And then
That's the perfect.
right, I think the third highest was they lived in Mount Lebanon their whole life. And then the fourth was that they lived in another community in Pennsylvania, but not in Allegheny County. So Mount Lebanon has this draw, a local draw within Allegheny County, and then a national draw of people coming here from other states, as some of you have done. So being able to know what makes our community attractive and giving real estate agents good information on how we want to market ourselves as a community to be able to attract people as well.
Can we be welcoming to all?
Yes, exactly. All right, so that's a lot of stuff. And like I said, that's a 10-year plan. So where to begin? Some projects that are already funded is beginning the implementation of the slogan and branding framework. So with the adoption of the comp plan, we did away with our prior community slogan, which was a community with character. Correct? I didn't parody it? Okay. One of the reasons we wanted to get rid of it was very easily parodied, along with just feeling outdated. And so our new one is "This is home." And there's a lot of ways we can build upon that using either the "this is" portion of the slogan, "this is blank," fill in the blank, or with the idea of home being, a welcoming place where people can come and live, and our history of being a bedroom community where, we have we're almost all residential in Mount Lebanon. There's not a lot of commercial properties. So, there's a lot of ways, with welcome home, things like that we can use both portions of that new slogan, but continuing implementing that as well as figuring out ways that we can kind of broadcast that welcoming atmosphere as our persona as a municipality of being a welcoming community. So obviously the Public Information Office has a variety of different communications that they put out each year, from the municipal magazine to the podcast, this email newsletter to, what am I forgetting? Legal alerts, social media, everything else. Yes. And then I mentioned some of the customer service center upgrades that were underway, as well as also some safety upgrades to the building, because we want to make sure that our employees are safe and have a good working environment where they don't have to, everyone can work behind a door that locks, so that, if in a worst case scenario, someone came into the municipal building, with bad intentions, they wouldn't have free access to our employees. Future projects, I mentioned the resident satisfaction survey, continual improvements to the employee environment, and integration of sponsorship and marketing. This is something I know that the Public Information Office has been working on, and I haven't fully pitched it to the commission yet. I know I've put a bug in a couple commissioners' ears, so this might be some new information to our commissioner in the room, but we have on staff in the Public Information Office, they're independent contractors, but they sell sponsorship advertising in our Mount Lebanon magazine that goes out 10 times a year to every household in the municipality. But we have other things that the municipality does that we offer sponsorships for, recreation with the pool, with the ball fields, things like that, with our First Friday events that commercial districts does. And we've been talking internally of, it's kind of inefficient to have one branch of staff selling advertising, another one also selling advertising for something else, and then our recreation employees having to keep track of, oh, are these people's 12 months up for their sign at the ball field? Do we need to track them down? It would be a lot easier to just have one group kind of integrating in everything from a marketing standpoint and then offering packages and saying, hey, you can buy this package and you can get ads in the magazine and a sign at the ball field and your name on the 4th of July program and whatever else, kind of integrating that all together for potential sponsorships of things.
Can I just say too, because I think it sounds very commercial, which clearly it is, but we do a lot of things here to try to keep prices down and to welcome others. And the one that comes to my mind is our swimming pool is open to everyone, whether you're a resident or not. And I think that's very important. I mean, I feel, having worked in the city for many years and not paid anything other than $52 a year for police and fire, that when they were closing city pools, it was incumbent on us as a community to welcome those residents here as well. So a lot of this kind of marketing keeps the prices down. You know, these swimming pool loses money every single year. I will still always fund it, but it loses money every single year. So doing some of these things can help keep that ethic, as it were, of welcoming others and being an open community, which I think is important. I think it's very much a part of who we are and what we do. So we're not like planning to bring in tons of money so we can go have big parties. We really would just like to keep prices down and welcome
Taxes
other
down, too.
people, and taxes too, as much as possible.
Yeah.
So.
And there are other communities that have done some integrated sponsorships with recreation assets, things like that, you know, if you go to some parks around, you know, the pavilion might be like the, you know, Dollar Bank Pavilion or the Citizens Bank Pavilion. And, you know, I think our pavilions in our park right now are listed as like Pavilion A, Pavilion B, Pavilion
Right,
C,
exactly.
but they're also like not ADA accessible. So if we could get some money to make our pavilions more accessible to people, if we put a little sign on it that has a, you know,
Right.
Dollar Bank's name, like that's to me a small price to pay to have a pavilion that's more open and accessible to different members of our community. So,
And we'll call it the Starlake Pavilion anyway.
exactly.
No matter what it is.
Now that it's started.
That's right. When it's so long,
The
they
price
keep-
gave in, yeah.
Yes. Yes, so some long-term thinking too about sponsorship and marketing that, you know, not only looking at what we currently offer, but is there anything else that we could offer as a potential asset? I know I took my kids to one park last year and they had a little spray park and it was, I think it was the Dollar Bank spray park, but like, you know, for the parents that were there with their kids, nobody cared that it said Dollar Bank spray park. They were happy that there was a spray park they could take their kids to. So I know that's a bit of a mindset shift from how Mount Lebanon has traditionally been, that we haven't had sponsorships on a lot of our recreation assets, but I think to keep, you know, taxes reasonable, to keep fees at a reasonable level, it's something worth considering and worth thinking about is, you know, do we want to go down that road and do we want to potentially have more updated things and well-maintained things that we could offer if someone's willing to sponsor them? And if you know, look around at who sponsors our community day, who sponsors, who has signs up at the baseball fields, it's all local businesses. You know, we're not going out and attracting these major national corporations. It's a lot of, you know, it's St. Clair Health, it's the dentist up the street, it's, you know, the chiropractors. So, you
My
know,
son's company,
yes,
he bought one.
thank you.
I
Yes.
know, right? I was like, good for you.
Yes. So something else to think about in the future.
There's also the opportunity, because of the type of residents that we have, that people have the estates as part of their estate planning to
Yes.
want to make donations in that person's name or that family name too. So it doesn't just have to be corporation.
Yes, absolutely.
Our field is named for a Mount Lebanon resident, Clint Seymour Field. And the tennis center is the Trestle Tennis Center, so named after former residents of Dixon.
Martha Dixon.
Martha's Playground, yeah. Yep. So I guess it is something we have done a little bit in the past, but not at the same level. So I did say I would talk about the Right to Know law and the Sunshine Act. So the Right to Know law, all documents related to public entity business can be requested by any citizen. And that includes formal documents as well as emails and text messages can be requested. So the key point is don't put anything in writing you wouldn't say at a public meeting. That's really the key. But also, you know, you're using your personal email addresses for board business. So just make sure that you're copying staff commission liaisons on any board emails, because if we get a right to know request that says, you know, I also want any emails related to this thing, our IT department has a way to pull all emails from municipal accounts that relate to a certain thing. So we'll be able to pull all those in, but you don't want your personal Gmail account or AOL account or whatever to be opened up to a right to know law search if you have other emails that you've sent on the side to people. So it does also include text messages. It does not include kind of incidental communication. So if it's a, you know, hey, are you going to the meeting tonight, or can I get a ride with you? Something like that doesn't really count. That's kind of incidental. But you know, if you're actually discussing board business, like, are you voting for this, or what's your opinion on this?
So
Better to be done.
is there an attorney? So is there any attorney-client privilege?
Yes, there's a little bit. If it's on,
So if you state that it's attorney-client privilege, that should.
It would be more like you might get somebody at a meeting, they're upset about something, and somebody writes an email to another board member saying what was going on in that guy's mind. That guy gets mad, puts in a right to know request, and can get that email where you said, yeah. So there's not a whole lot that's covered by attorney-client privilege here. There are some things that we wouldn't be talking about, discussion of real estate sales.
And anything I could
Yeah.
think of that would fall.
Communication would have to be for the purpose of seeking legal advice, like you can't
Right.
CC an attorney just to
Oh, no, I
discuss
know
their
that,
privilege.
but I'm just trying to figure out, like, when you talked about the employee environment or employee engagement or any of that,
That's all.
okay.
yeah, if there was anything, so we do have a municipal solicitor. So if there was anything that the solicitor was responding to, if the board had a question, you know, he may say, you know, this is attorney-client privileged information just for the board, things like that. But our solicitor also reviews any right to know requests that we get. So sometimes he will redact certain things and say, like, this is, you know, this can't be given out for one of the reasons that's enumerated in the right to know law. But generally speaking, it's better to have conversations either in person or talk to people on the phone rather than putting things in writing.
We do get these. I mean, it's really important to know we get them, so quite often.
Yes.
And our meetings are always going to be recorded.
Yes.
Business meetings, not your committee meetings.
Right. Yes,
These
so
main
that's-
board meetings.
That's the second piece, which is the Sunshine Act. So any meetings with a quorum, so 5 or more board members, must be open to the public, must have public comment sections, and any deliberations, decisions have to occur at an advertised public meeting. So we've given you all the list of when the meetings are for this year. I think all of your meetings are on the first Wednesday, right? We have to.
No, the one was moved for the Jewish holiday in October.
That's right.
It's moved back to Tuesday.
Tuesday, okay, right. So if there's a situation like that where a meeting gets moved, we do have another board meeting on Tuesday nights. So if your meeting goes to a night when someone else is having a meeting, your meeting will be over in room D next door, like right across the hall next door, not different building, sorry, right across the hall. If another board meeting, like if the Tuesday night meeting gets shifted to Wednesday night, your meeting will still be in here, they'll be in room D.
The only thing, because of the timing, the only thing that will really affect that would be the Jewish holidays in the fall or potentially the 4th of July. And I looked and I don't think 4th of July is coming up for a couple of years. So you should be pretty clear.
So Sunshine Act, it's just interesting to know the history behind this. It used to be that so much of government happened behind closed doors. You know, the idea of me meeting with 2 other commissioners and we've already decided how we're voting on everything before we go to a public meeting. This was enacted to stop that kind of thing. So that's why I mean, it's really, it's difficult from time to time because the commission, we can't get together and casually have conversations because it could be construed as deliberating on something. So everything is done in public so that anybody can watch what we do.
If it's not a quorum, you could have a meeting to talk about the pros and cons of an issue, right?
Yeah, yes,
As long as it's not a quorum.
as long as it's not a quorum. But that's like one other commissioner,
It's also really useful for political scientists.
Oh.
So just there is
Okay.
like, political scientists have put together this as a data source and we use it.
That's interesting. Huh. So if you're watching ours, you get to see me cut up at all the meetings, because I'm known for that. Okay, there we have that. Whoops.
Yes, so, and this board probably won't have any executive session stuff. That's mostly at the commission level that executive session happens. But you are allowed to go behind closed doors as a full board to discuss personnel matters, consideration of property purchases, litigation, public safety matters. So if something like that comes up, you should definitely get the solicitor, Phil Weiss, involved. I'll send this whole presentation to Laura. She can put it up on your board's SharePoint site so you can have access to it in perpetuity. But if there's any discussion of anything like that, the one thing I will note though about exec sessions is if you have an exec session on something, you have to announce at the next public meeting. We had an exec session on discussion of litigation, which then can open it up to questions about, well, what did you discuss? So it's in litigation, I guess litigation is kind of the one that you can say, we don't talk about litigation in public, but if you say we had an exec session on personnel matters, then that could open up some other questions or consideration of property purchase. Well, what property? So this board probably isn't going to talk about property purchase.
Well, the other thing I will say that this board does keep confidential is there's a board member who's not with us tonight, Margaret Izzo, who does mediation. She does conflict resolutions and mediations. Those are all confidential and they are discussed only in generalities with zero specifics at this board. So let's say a resident is having an issue with their neighbor, they can't get along. They are invited to drop an email to me. I will connect them with Margaret. It's kept completely confidential. And maybe at the meeting, Margaret might say, I've done 3 mediations. Just to keep
These
the board
subjects,
apprised, but we
yeah.
give absolutely no personal
How
information.
often does that occur?
More often than you would think, and
Way
it's
more
the
than you
bonus
think.
there is it keeps it out of the police realm.
Right.
A lot of these things, if you can get to, sometimes it doesn't even get to the mediation, she can handle on a conflict resolution where she's just getting people together, maybe talking to one, maybe getting, sometimes the commission will get a complaint. And the commissioner will be involved as well. She'll talk to both sides and then people come to a conclusion that they feel that they can live with. Sometimes it rises a little bit more. It's got to go to mediation, then they have to sign off on consent forms to go to mediation.
I think in the last year, she didn't have any that went to it.
Mhm.
Official mediation.
Yeah, right.
She's very good at it.
She's
She's trained and
really-
other board members are invited. There is coursework that you can take because I know she's right now the only person who does it, but if there are others who are interested, it is a talent and a science and it is extremely useful.
It's really helpful. There's some things you just can't have a law for everything. I get complaints for things like dogs barking. I understand how annoying that is. But, how could we put a law in place that could deal with that? What's the definition? Oh, the dog barked for 15 minutes straight. So then, that's bad. Okay, but what if you have a dog that only barks every time somebody walks by? So every minute, the dog is barking, but it's not continuous. Or what is the level of noise? Do we have to have policemen carrying noise machine or whatever the thing is that measures noise? So they would know who to arrest. So I'm just trying to give you an illustration of why some of these things aren't something we can put a law on very easily. So this kind of intervention by Margaret is just huge. It's really helpful. Hi, Adam.
Sorry, Adam, I didn't see you in there because we had the presentation.
Yeah.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Hi, everybody. I'm so sorry I'm late. I dawned on me that at about 6:50 that, oh shit, these meetings are not on the second Wednesday anymore. They're on the first Wednesday. So my bad. But nice to see everybody. I'll just say hi real quick. My name's Adam Flango. I was the vice chair of the community engagement board, and but I started with the CRB back in 2021 as an ad hoc member the member of the ad hoc committee on the DEI committee, and have been part of the board ever since. And I'm excited to meet all of you in person whenever I actually put this on my right schedule next week, month.
So that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions? I know it was kind of like drinking from a fire hose of information there. There was a lot to go over, but I wanted to make sure that with all the new boards, we were all kind of starting on the same page and moving forward all together with a similar understanding of what the commission is hoping to accomplish with these new advisory boards. It's really exciting for all of us, and we're very hopeful that we realize that there's gonna be some growing pains. The first year is gonna be a learning experience for everyone, but hopefully as we continue with this process that everybody is able to work together to help make Mount Lebanon an even better place to live, because it's already a wonderful place to live, but we want to make it even better. Okay, well, thank you all.
Thank you. That's comprehensive.
Wow, thank you, yeah.
Yes. And as I said, I am your assistant municipal manager, so if you have any questions about anything else, feel free to contact me.
Let us know if you're going to the conference.
I will, yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ian.
Yes.
My dog stopped barking at everybody that crosses.
So then just going through the agenda, we don't have a chairperson yet.
You could elect one if you want to.
Well, that's under new business.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I jumped the gun.
Does our commission liaison have anything?
Nothing, zippo.
I don't have anything other than to tell you at the conclusion of this meeting at some point this evening, I will add the new members to, you'll get the invitation from SharePoint. I will double check your email with you to make sure I have the one that you want. And then if you have any issues with that, let me know and we'll get you set up for that document repository. So that's it. Have anything? No. We don't have any subcommittees, we don't have any old business, so new business would be your choice. Would you like to elect a chair and a vice chair at this meeting, or would you prefer to wait until next month?
If somebody wants to do it and they want to make themselves known, I'd be happy to.
How many of us are new?
There are four people, four out of, but you still don't have that other appointee and you have Margaret out, so it's totally your decision.
Yeah, Margaret, Adam, Noah, and Terry are coming through. Noah was the chairperson for the Community Relations Board. Adam was vice chair when we dissolved them and moved to this.
So the way it would work, if somebody is interested, you can either nominate yourself or nominate somebody else, and then we would vote, we would take all nominations and then we would vote on them in the order that they were nominated, and the first person to get a majority would be the chair and vice chair. So says Bob in his rules.
So I'd be willing to do it again, but Adam knew that that required a lot of a vice chair. So, I mean, that's,
I'd be happy to do it again as well. As far as being vice chair or chair, either one, happy to run it back again. Is it, what do you for, it's a year, is it a year as the, that?
It's for
I
a
know-
year. I don't
okay.
know if you were here for the presentation. The one thing that has changed is whoever's conducting the meeting must be present. We cannot, because you aren't able to recognize members of the public and things like that from remote. So that is the only thing that would be different. So
Okay.
Terms 1 year.
no, there are 9 people. There are 3 3-year terms, 3 2-year terms, and 3 1-year terms that only a third of the board cycles off at each.
But you're also eligible for another term. Correct. So if we gave you a 1-year term, and honestly, we were kind of like, I don't know. I mean, we didn't know many of you. A resume is a resume, but it doesn't really give us much of a feel as to who you are. Some of you I knew, but yeah. You can always run again or ask to do it again.
Okay, so I'm hearing that you want to.
I'm heading out to put my kids to bed.
Thank you.
If anybody has any questions, just let me know.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm hearing that tonight, so we have one nomination for Noah for chair. Any other nominations for chair? Hearing none. One nomination for vice chair for Adam. Any other nominations for vice chair?
And they have 2 3-year terms, so like you're
No,
gonna be.
it's a 1 year. Yeah, it's renewed
Oh,
every.
that's
yeah.
renewed.
Yeah,
This is
you
only
can potentially get new members every year.
You're really making it.
It's not making 1-year commitment.
Well, so we can make it easy. If it's only the two of them, you can go ahead and vote on them as a slate then. I don't see any problem in that, as
No.
long as everybody is in agreement. Okay, all in favor of Noah as chair and Adam as vice chair, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Unanimous.
Wrong. Done.
Next meeting, it's yours.
Can I ask a question about the next meeting? So
Yeah.
Michael Pollan,
Yes.
Yes, as the
That
speaker,
same
I
day.
know.
we just meet at
Earlier?
5:30.
You can always meet later, but you can't meet earlier because we would have to re-advertise the whole meeting in the legal ads of the newspaper. So you can expedite, and it is early, so you don't have too many in progress things. So my suggestion would be if you can get done in 45 minutes, you can get it. So.
Yeah.
And if there's anything I can do to assist that, if there's things I can distribute to the group beforehand so that they can read through them, I'm happy to do that.
So the schedule looked like August was like a pivotal time that things get quick towards the budget finalization.
It is, again, the capital budget's not gonna be anything, like I said, it's probably not gonna be anything for you. And
Unless we decided to do an engagement survey, which is.
that's not capital, that's operating, so
Okay.
that's easier.
That's
That's
much easier.
Yeah.
And we actually have, I mean, it's important that things go through for the budget, but an example that Tara and I were talking about earlier. One thing that we are hoping to be able to fund this year is a social worker to work alongside the police department. Because we have a number of citizens who have mental health issues from time to time. And some, I mean, you know, our police are very well trained and they're trained in crisis intervention, every single policeman, which is very unusual in Western Pennsylvania. But still, that's just one part of their job. So the thought was to bring in a social worker to do a wraparound kind of thing. So I love to use examples on the board. So Kevin, being, you know, an older citizen like me, we find out that, you know, his wife calls and he's kind of going off the deep end there. He had a little bit too much scotch. And then the police arrive at his house and he's been hoarding in the garage and there's stuff flowing out. A social worker can go back in and can meet him, can go back in and start following up with him to get him the help he needs, whether it's because he's got an addiction problem or a hoarding problem or whatever the case may be. Sorry, Kevin.
I keep it in the basement, just for the record.
Are you mixing the scotch there? We must share.
Say what?
And notice I did scotch because that's what I like, so you know, I use myself too. But and it's just trying to give you an example of some of the things that come up. So when the budget was being considered, our police chief was fairly new on the job and had such an incredible workload of things to do that he was not able to produce a fully fleshed out plan. It just hadn't been there long enough. So he gave it to us at the last discussion meeting the commission had, because every spring to summer, we have what's called an unused fund balance, or just a fund balance is what it's called, fund balance. Think of it as your rainy day fund in your own personal lives. You know, you probably have some money stashed somewhere in case something happens and you need some extra cash. That's what a fund balance is. And oftentimes we have more in it than we need to keep in it. And we use the extra for projects that didn't make the cut during the budget time for whatever reason. In this case, because it wasn't a fully fleshed out plan. So we'll consider in this spring or summer, some of my questions for Keith McGill. When do we start? When is that meeting? To look and see if we can go ahead and fund the social worker. So they're really 2 times a year is all I'm trying to bring up, that if you don't make it at a budget time in the spring, we'll know, we have a much better feel, you know, as to what taxes have been collected. Are we really on budget for things? Are the specs and things we're putting out, are the bids coming back in reasonably? All of those things, so we have a much better idea.
So the mental health coordinator on that, it's worth going
Yes.
and watching the commission's discussions.
Yes.
Was that 2 weeks ago, to watch the whole presentation, because it's, I think it could be a game changer for the way
And that
we
was
do
2
services.
meetings ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds really interesting.
it was really good. It was really well done. I mean, he's done a very good job and,
Let me tell you my opinion, is that it's under-resourced from day one,
oh,
so.
yes,
You know,
yeah,
so.
yeah.
So related to the question you just asked, Liam, so like in 2 months, we're supposed to have our budget items. But I'm just, that's a process question, I'm just confused about, like, there's a list of those 10 items that, you know, the commission wants us to focus on. Just pick one, you know, employee engagement, well, where, like, what's the process, like, what do we find out, what are the issues for employee engagement, what's going on now, what's happening, like.
Well, one of the first things you have to do is prioritize those things. So you'll look at that list and think, you know, what do we want to do first? If that's when you want to do first, it probably will take a little bit more time. If it's something like a survey, that's a little bit easier because I can give a ballpark for what those things tend to cost. If you tell me that that's a priority of yours and I can put placeholders.
So is
for
it-
it.
Surveys are only, employee engagement surveys are only good if your employees feel like it's confidential in it.
Right,
We've all done them.
right. Well, this is would be a community satisfaction
Okay.
survey is what we were talking about.
But-
So,
Yeah, more, I'm sorry, so it's more of a process question, I'm not trying to solve the problem.
Sure.
In the process, so now we're gonna go away, and then we're gonna meet in a month. If something happened in between, like, how are we gonna get this done in 2 months when a lot of us don't know anything about it?
So, Mr. Chairman, what's
So
our?
I would suggest that we all need, I mean, we all need to study that section of the comp plan.
Okay.
And that we could do some prioritization next time, but you know, there is a certain amount of like, what is the municipal staff have the resources right now to assist us on as well? I mean, that's part of the
Yeah.
conversation, because it's not just, we want to prioritize this, well, they already know what they're doing for the next number of months, so that's not gonna, you know, fly, so that needs to be.
And
a
having
conversation.
read through that whole plan, I'm amazed that you have as much, that you have time to even meet with us in the evening, but.
thank you for. I did pull out the entire section of the comp plan so that you don't have to go through the whole 130 pages, and I did put it in the SharePoint site for you so that you can stick within the section, so this is a little easier to digest.
From a staff perspective, what do you see with this new committee and you having been on it? What do you think the priorities should be?
Mm-mm.
You can't say that.
No, it's not up to me. I'm happy to help you think through things.
No, I'm just saying, the staff here, when it talks about staff engagement, I mean, I don't know how well the staff is engaged here. I don't know if they're unhappy. I don't know from an HR standpoint, Julie, how many people have filed grievances or what's the turnover rate? Like, how do we find those things out? If it's relevant to his employee engagement, and I would assume that it is.
What was engagement the word, or was it like employee, I don't know, might have been like
I think
satisfaction?
satisfaction for recruitment and retention, yeah.
I mean, that's a really broad topic. I mean, you know, we can pull numbers on things like grievances and what have you. There's like just a lot of different angles that you can
Yeah.
look at that.
I'm just curious, because it said, it was like that one thing that kind of stood out to me about the employees, and we don't think about them very often.
Security has been a big thing for people
I
lately.
assumed when he said something about locking a door that
Yes.
that was.
When you collect
Although I have
taxes
to
from
say,
people,
I-
sometimes they get angry about it.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear from the two of you about your experience with communications and what you are doing this work day in and day out to me, like. So I second what Anna was saying. I'd love to just be able to learn more. Is it okay to reach out to the two of you and
Anytime.
pick your brains? And yes, sure, great.
Kevin, one of the things that we did in the CRB is subcommittee work too, which is a big way, efficient way to get some things done.
Right.
Once we do the prioritization, and Adam is really good at creating surveys and helping solicit feedback.
Yeah.
He's
Terry. I'm really good at pestering people about surveys. I don't know. The result.
That's
how it
okay, it's a
results in
town.
It
things.
works.
It's a talent. And
Just
Terry
have,
works closely with
yeah.
the police, like, we're having coffee with a cop, April, so I have it on my calendar.
April 16th.
Thank you, April 16th, which is a really wonderful event for anybody that might wanna come.
April 16th,
Uptown Coffee.
coffee, 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, I can't.
8 o'clock to
yeah.
11 o'clock.
Yeah.
No agendas, public comes in, the police are asked to dress down, not in their uniforms. Usually they wear golf shirts or quarter zips. People can come and get a cup of coffee.
They'll
sit
come in
at-
with their recordings of the dog barking in the back.
We have a bloodhound though, he's quiet. But the one time when we did it at a coffee shop, the officers didn't think anything of it. They all came in their uniforms and somebody thought, people walking by thought somebody had been murdered inside the coffee shop because they walked by and there were 20 police officers there. So the main thing is to make it comfortable for people who can come in and ask any question that they want without an audience.
Yeah.
It's important.
And I mean, I found it helpful to like, the police chief, like you ask him, some policy question, he'll answer. It's a very, you can have sort
Yeah.
of free flowing
Yeah.
conversation. So.
Yeah, I'll second that and say that whoever has, excuse me, if any people if new people, folks have not engaged with Chief Haberman, I think he's been very willing to engage with our board, so.
We'd be happy to have him in to address you, to come in and just go over some of his initiatives and then an opportunity for you all to ask questions here in this meeting as well. So, yeah. And then the other two things that the CRB has done in the past that we'll be carrying forward, we mentioned the Residence Academy. That is January through usually the first week of March. It's 9 weeks. And it's just like the Citizens Police Academy and the Citizens Fire Academy, it's residents' chance to come in and learn everything about the municipal government. Which you would wonder who would want to give 9 weeks for that, but it's a
Do you have?
30 and it's, we call it selling out. There's no fee, but we fill that list and we have a waiting list every year.
Do you do interns? Do you have interns from?
Most departments have interns. They're unpaid just because we're run so tight. I know in the magazine, we usually have 2 a year. The police department sometimes has one. The finance department has had a paid one that they train for receivables and things like that. So, and then sometimes we get interns through the local government academy where they're project-based interns. So. But yes, so there's the Residence Academy, and I will bug you about that as it gets closer because this helps. And Adam was in charge of that this last year. And then the Community Service Award, for the lack of a better word, it's our Volunteer of the Year award that we take nominations for people who have given back to the community. We put their name on a plaque that's upstairs in a public area and recognize them in an article in the magazine. And again, it's a way of encouraging people to recognize the efforts of others and to be inclusive.
So I would suggest, everyone spend time with our section of the comp plan and the thoughts are, how would we divide it into subcommittee works? And also what are the things that are maybe the lower hanging fruits that we want to start with? And then after we have some conversation, looking at Adam there, he might not know. Because he's on Zoom, but Adam might be able to produce a tool to help us do some prioritization lists after that conversation, so.
Sure, we can put something together.
Is the DEI, so I know Ian mentioned that there were reports that were produced by, I guess, contractors and other members of boards on DEI. I mean, I'm sure they're somewhere publicly available. Where are they?
All the ones I had, I did not get the ones from group 2, but the ones I had from groups 1, 3, and 4 are in the drive.
In our drive. Oh, awesome. Thank you.
You can take a look at them. Yeah.
There's a lot.
That's what Ian was referring to, by the way, whenever he was referring to very, very long reports that kind of ended up going nowhere, was some of the DEI stuff. Not all of it, I should say, not all of it. Some of it did go.
Not all of it, but some of it, yeah.
Yeah, some of it did. So I'm glad that there's a new process in place so that we avoid that happening in the future.
I think it's important we should do it before we're not allowed to.
Yeah.
Process question. In the CRB, we had a time constraint because of a commission meeting, or did we just typically?
It was a meeting that some members like to attend. There was no time constraint.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we always, we We were
Ended to
one
end
hour.
it.
It's
We had it
seven,
1
yeah,
hour, we
yeah.
met.
Democratic committee meeting is right after it. That's what it is. And a lot of us
Well,
as
used to be,
elected
the
officials,
second
used to be.
Wednesday.
Yeah,
Right.
used to be.
That's,
Used to be.
that's kind of asking
So,
about it.
yeah.
So
we
we
go
don't
to
have,
it.
we don't have a 60
You,
minute.
you don't, but
straight.
again, you know, they Ian emphasized action at these meetings over long conversations. Those long conversations are probably best for the committee meetings, but certainly nobody's gonna tell you to be quiet. Here, I mean, this is your meeting.
Well, yeah, and particularly, I think, first couple of meetings, the next couple of meetings, we're probably gonna have
Yeah.
more
on-
conversation, trying to sort out exactly how we're gonna go about tackling things.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And do we have each other's contact info in the SharePoint?
The emails are, so yeah, so
Okay.
once I add those of you to it who haven't been in it, you'll be able to send to the group. And certainly you're encouraged to share each other's emails and phone numbers with each other. I am not authorized to do that, but you are authorized to do that.
And I'd love to like just hear a little bit about what brought everyone to the committee. I'm not saying now, but I think it'd be really interesting. It sounds like out of the survey work or professional pestering, you know. And just sort of what we each bring, and I think that'll help
Right.
thinking about subcommittees, so.
Just remember to copy staff and commission.
Oh.
I mean, we aren't gonna interfere, but we have to be able to know what's going on.
Yep.
Or we're,
We can
No,
do
it's
some of that
helpful.
intro conversation next time too.
yeah, okay, yeah.
We also
Want to expedite.
holiday.
Well, sure, I'm just like if our resumes are on there or
Next
something.
one's a short meeting.
I know, next one's.
Oh, you can upload whatever you want to the drive. So if you feel comfortable uploading your resume, I can create a folder for everybody's background. You feel free to upload your resume to it.
Mhm.
It's your choice.
Expediency of the next one.
Mhm. We can read about each other. I happen to know too that Noah's good at icebreakers.
No, I like it.
It's amazing what you find out these.
All right, so the next meeting, as you all mentioned, well, actually, you're the chair now. I'm done.
Okay. Meetings on May 1st at 6 PM and we're gonna start right on time because
Yeah,
there's an
microphone, yeah.
important speaker in our municipality that day and I'll adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
So does your grandson play with my granddaughter?
Oh, like buddies?
What's her name?
Yeah, I've been.
Jane.